this conversation takes place at about the halfway point of the game, and it's right about now that you realize, they're just having the same conversation over and over again. They're getting nowhere. And from a screenwriting point of view, it's really frustrating to watch this because actually you can tell they're trying to follow kind of a structure, maybe, because the way you write a screenplay, or at least the structure of it, is, the heroes are brought into a story by reacting to a crisis. It starts off with a reaction. Okay, so something happens, the heroes react to it. They're put into a dark place because of the action. And then things turn around. They dig themselves out, and then the heroes act. They become heroes, they respond to the call, and they go from reacting to acting. And they overcome the odds, they've acted, and then they win. So, they've got this problem, okay? They've been cursed with the Lassie curse. They're about to die. And so now they have to... they get away. They're reacting. They're reacting to being chased and hunted and stalked, and they have to come up with a plan and act. All right. So that's the screenplay. That's the structure. And I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna go. Okay. I can see they're coming up with a structure here. It's written terribly, but all right. So, but the problem, one of many. But the problem with the structural argument is that the best plan is to not do anything. So, according to the structure, the action is inaction. And this is why I said this, the plot is almost experimental. Because, it's the very antithesis of how you tell a story. They go from reaction to you should do no action. The best action is no action, and sometimes that's true, yes, but that's not a movie. That's not a game. It's like war games, I keep going back to the war games thing where I say the only winning move is not to play. However, in war games, that's not the hero's call to make. The heroes have to act. The heroes have this choice to make. They have to teach the computer the nature of futility, or else the world will be ended by the computer. So there's tension there. There's crisis. They have to overcome the odds and teach, they have to teach something without any consciousness, or they have to teach something with a growing consciousness, the nature of futility. So... But, these guys have no sense of futility. The action they're taking makes no sense. The action they're taking is suicide, genocide, and they know this. And so, you're always asking the question, why are they doing this? And there is never at any point a good answer for why they're doing it. But the justification is well, we have to stop the bad guy. But you're never given a reason... You're never given a plan as to how they're going to stop him, because the only way to stop him is to kill him. And by definition, that is... you just spin it around in circles, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but that is the point. There's nothing else to it, and I can't understand why anybody who read the script or playtested this game... or anybody who played this game, I just don't know how anyone can stick up for this game. And I very few people, I think, did. And I actually got really... This is where I got disillusioned. It was this review where I think a lot of people kind of... at least reading the comments, I think people started to turn on this series, in a way. Because people started saying, Spoony, you seem really angry. See, and this was a big part of it. I think I spend most of this review talking about the nature of the focus, because the entire game is spent on not knowing what the focus is, because this is the major crux of how the story is told, is that you're not told what the focus is. The whole idea of the entire plot is based on the fact that nobody knows anything. Nobody knows anything. Everything turns on the fact that the fal'Cie don't tell them anything. And there's no reason why that should be. See, like, they raise these questions that have no clear answer. You know, and they just... You know, sometimes as a DM, like, when players raise a plot hole, I try to remain mysterious like that. So, like, I can kind of cover my ass. So, like, when something is apparently a plot hole, like, I can't even think of an example, but let's say, you know, you see a vampire walk around in the daylight, and the players go, what the fuck? That's impossible. You know, I don't know, maybe they caught me, or, like, they see an NPC walking around, and they go, wait, how is that possible? That guy's a vampire. I read it in a book. And I go, yeah, that is weird, isn't it? You wonder how that could be. You know, I kind of cover my ass saying that. Yeah. I'm sorry, I was watching myself. I'm brilliant. No, so I'll cover my ass by kind of asking them a question, kind of to kind of seem mysterious and be like, yeah, good call. You noticed that, huh? It looks like you have a mystery on your hands. But the thing is, you know, I don't make that the focus of the game. You know, I will at least provide answers. And if I'm gonna make that the central part of the game, I'm not gonna. God, it drives me nuts. You know, but it just doesn't make sense that, you know, we've established that these things. We've established that these things are god machines, and there's absolutely no reason why they can't communicate what they want, which is very simple. Very, very simple, is to destroy Cocoon and bring about the end of things. And why are the visions so, like, okay, maybe they can't talk. They can, but maybe it's just Bartandalus. It's not, but maybe it is. So, like, you know, I have to put so many conditions to make this make sense, and it still doesn't make sense if I do it. But maybe they can only communicate in images, because, you know, Star Trek, sometimes that happens. But even then, why are the visions so foggy? Because, you know, it's almost like they don't want to get things done, and yet they do. It's all they want to get done. So, like, yeah. I don't know. I'm just giving you the review over and over again. And I don't want to do that. But it's... But... Going back to what I was saying, you know, I think this is where fans kind of started to turn a little bit on the reviews. In fact, I kind of started to turn on it a little myself. Because, like I said before, I think sometimes the material was kind of dry. Because, you know, it wasn't necessarily the plot that was screamingly bad. It was because... You know, I think the fault of the game was more structural than anything else. It was to me, it was fascinatingly bad because of that. But Final Fantasy X, for instance, was much more riffable than this. You know, for me, 13 was just more infuriating because it was so, from like an academic point of view, from more an artistic point of view, it was offensive to me. You know, it actually did make me angry. I kind of was legitimately angry at this, so it's kind of genuine what you see. You know, fans were writing in saying, like, you seem really pissed off. I am pissed off. I was pissed off. You know, so it helped a little bit that I was writing with some genuine anger, but it also hurt it because, you know, it kind of harmed the humor a little bit. Where I started to get a little disillusioned was, I thought, you know, maybe it was, you know, people were saying, like, you're kind of yelling and you're not bringing so much of the funny, and it was tough in a sense because I actually really wanted to, I kind of had to explain to you, it was kind of a mission I set out for myself. I had to tell you why this game is bad. Almost secondary to being comedy. You know, because I was like, you need to understand this. I need to teach you why, because you got to have standards here. And I wasn't trying to talk down to you, but I'm saying, like, this is like, you could not ask for a better example of, like, a perfect storm of shitty writing. This is like every single thing you could do wrong in terms of writing. Even things you didn't know you could do wrong, aside from accidentally setting yourself on fire, this game does wrong. You know, it is unbelievable. So that's why I was saying, like, you know, it's just, if you want to know how to write a story, that was this. My God, I had to show you. I am speechless. It still renders me speechless just thinking about it. Now, I mean, I still had endless material to work with, but I think I really wanted to front load the first. And I was even apologizing on Twitter up front. I was like, you know, I wasn't even talking about the plot really up until like the fourth part of the review, and that's amazing, isn't it? Because I was like an hour into the reviews until I got into the plot, essentially. I mean, I'm talking about the plot now, but it's kind of amazing. Like it seemed like I didn't start talking about the combat until part 6, you know, until the very end, and even I couldn't really believe that. But the combat is it's almost like an afterthought in the game, and yet they seem to spend so long, and they're so proud of it, and yet the combat is so uninvolving. It's almost like I might have forgotten about it had I not put it in my notes. Like I could have easily just kind of finished the review, and somebody would have been like, you know, you didn't talk about the combat. I'd been like, really? Oh, whatever, you know, because it's so. It's just kind of shrugging and go, eh. I was way more offended by the Crystarium, because it's just one of those things where it's like deal or no, you know, well, I should have saved this for the later talk, but like the Crystarium was one of those things where it's like, it's kind of like Deal or No Deal, where you've got this very simple mechanic, you know, it's just, but you've got the, you know, Deal or No Deal is this guessing game, but it's the most overproduced piece of crap you've ever seen in your life. You know, you're guessing a number between 1 and 30, and it's a statistics game, and yet you spend millions hiring models and briefcases and Howie Long. It's just, it's insane. That's the Crystarium. You've just got a series of, you've got this, you know, dots on a line, and you twist it around, and you spend thousands and thousands of man hours, you know, turning it into little crystals and shinies, and it's pointless. It's completely pointless. But I was really thinking I would end the series on part 4. I was really close to doing that. When I ended it, I was kind of 50-50 on whether or not I really was going to end it there, which is why part 4 kind of seemed it was definitive. You know, I'd used the ending theme from the game, and I'd ended it a lot like I did, you know, Final Fantasy X, by giving all the critics scores before, and I just kind of walked out. You know, it seemed really definitive. And at the end of this part, I think I say the line, this isn't a review, it's a mercy killing. That was pretty much where I was, that pretty much summed up, you know, the disillusionment I had with this review. It's because I really think that nobody really stood up for this game. You know, I've had like one, or I think it's like actually 3 or 4 people have written in saying, oh, I love this game. But, you know, even for the lunatic fringe, not that, you know, I don't care if you like this game. I really don't. It's personal taste. But really very, very few people like this game. You know, it comes down to personal preference. But even for, you know, personal preference, it's not many. Like, very, 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 very few. Even the, I love this montage, by the way. I don't know, I can't believe I got this much mileage out of You Don't Know Yet, but it was a funny scene. I don't know, I got chuckles out of it.
That's the reason we're Lassie, to keep Cocoon safe. Even then they couldn't figure out his focus.
I don't know my focus.
You don't know yet.
We lost
This, seriously, this is almost every single conversation in the game. Like, seriously, I went through every single conversation where they stop and talk. Almost every single one of them. No joke. Where they stop and sit around or stand around and talk is comprised of this conversation. Not even kidding. They stop, they stand, and they talk about, they don't know what their focus is, they don't know where they're going, they don't know what they're doing, and then they just decide they gotta keep going, and hoping wherever they're going they can find a plan, or they can find someone who can help them, and they worry that they're running out of time. You know, it is so repetitive, and it is so it's so tedious. You know, every time they stop to sleep, or in fact they'll stop just in the middle of running around. You know, you'll be running around the wasteland, and all of a sudden you'll just stop running, and it fades to a cutscene, and they're just like standing around a campfire all of a sudden for no reason, and they'll be talking like, they'll be staring at their arm, and they'll be like, "Why do you think we have a focus? Why do you think the fal'Cie chose us?" You know, it's over and over and over again. So, but you have no idea how long it took to put that montage together, because I had to go through every single scene in the game to do that. Which was, that took a long time to put together, even though I had time codes for basically all those scenes. Yeah, those guys had the drop on them for 20 seconds, and they don't shoot. I don't understand this. It drives me nuts when this happens. But I guess that scene does help tie into. I could tell you I'm jumping around here a lot, but you know, in brief, the editing process, why these take so long is, you know, like, consider that montage where I jump around to every single time they talk about their focus. You know, imagine how long it takes when you've got all that footage, 40, 50 hours of gameplay, and you've got to find every single, like, out of all that gameplay, all of that combat, find every one of those little stopping and talking scenes, dig out that one line and put it, you know, in editing. Find every one of those. Or if you want to find that one bit in that one scene, you know, I don't know yet. That's like 3 seconds out of that bit. Even if you know generally where that is, you've got to go find it. So, I have to go through and take notes on every, you know, I have to watch, you know, you have to play that game, and then you have to watch all that footage again. You dig it? So then I'm taking notes and then making annotations for the time code and every single thing that goes through it. So, you know, if, let's just say it's 40 hours, that's a week. That's a week. And then I have to watch the footage again. And just assuming I didn't stop, that's a week. You know, so I know I've kind of gone over that already, but this, like, that's where the time goes. And that's just watching it. Now imagine how long it takes just editing that together. And, I guess if you want to get into a little more detail, and actually, I haven't even explained this. And it's worth mentioning, just so I think I want to help you kind of appreciate a little bit of the detail. This is the kind of stuff that you don't notice, that I'm kind of glad you haven't noticed until now, because I kind of make it look easy. And editing is the sort of thing that you only notice when it looks bad, you know? But when it looks good, you don't notice it. So that's why when the Oscars come on, they've actually kind of been relegated to either the, you know, the technical Oscars that nobody watches, or the kind of Oscars that people go to a bathroom break. So when there's like, best film editing, people just kind of piss off to the bathroom. Because nobody, like, best editing, the hell does that mean? You know, because you don't notice edits. But whenever there's a cutscene, for instance, the cutscenes in Final Fantasy XIII are so soaked in long, tedious pauses. So, for instance, if you see a cutscene with Bartandalus says a line and then pauses for, like, no joke, 4 seconds. So he'll say, for instance, like, "Allow me to extend you an invitation." Pause. 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 To save a world beyond redemption. Pause. Pause. Line. You know, for the review, you can do one of three things. You can leave the scene uncut. You can jump cut to make it faster. Or you can edit it so that it looks better. If you leave it in uncut, the review, you know, if you leave it in uncut, that scene takes about 10 seconds longer. If you jump cut it, you know, so it is faster, but you get all that information out. Now it looks horrible. Now the scene is all jump cutty. You know, back in the day, earlier, I might not have cared that much. You know, it's a game. It's a game, so, you know, you can jump cut all over the place. Some critics don't care, because it's just, you know, you're just gonna, you want to get it done, chop, 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 you know, it's a shitty cutscene, whatever. I care. But you want to make it fast. You know, you want the scene to keep moving, and I want to keep the review from being too long. So, but the thing is, now I want to edit it so it doesn't jump cut, and that's hard. So, so to not make jump cuts, you have to edit to something else. So I'm kind of editing the cutscenes like it's a movie now. So like when Bartandalus is talking, to hide the edit, to remove the pause between the lines, to drag the lines closer together, I have to actually put reaction shots while he's talking in, so it doesn't look like there's a jump cut. And that's the kind of detail that nobody notices. And that takes time. And I was talking to Doug Walker about this, and he says, like, he was nodding his head, and he's like, you know, that's absolutely true. I have to do that sometimes to make movies, and reviews in a manageable amount of time. Oh, Oreo, she was a good sport. Those growls were not real. Oreo was not growling. But yeah, it's those details, and Doug was even maybe a little more perfectionist than perfectionist in talking about this. But Doug says, you know, one frame of video can kill a joke. He's actually a very big stickler on black frames. When you're dragging clips in a non-linear editor, you have to be careful to put the clips together. Sometimes what can happen is clips will snap together. You know what snapping is? But you have to be careful to snap them together exactly, because sometimes tracks don't line up evenly. So if video tracks don't snap together right, there's sometimes this one black frame where they don't snap together right. That's a huge pet peeve of his, and I think that's what he means by black frames. Or if you don't edit scenes properly, you can sometimes have one frame of the next scene, and that is immensely distracting. And the problem with that is sometimes lines, so like Bartandalus's lines sometimes will cross over into a reaction shot. Actually, that happens quite a lot in movies or games. So like sometimes the end of Bartandalus's line, like the last quarter of a second, will cross over into a reaction shot. But I don't want that, because, you know, the next shot is of me on camera. So now I have to kind of fiddle with the film edit, you know, fiddle with the cutscene so that doesn't happen, because otherwise the last quarter or tenth of a second, you know, is really distracting, because now it's like, you know, Bart on camera, then Sarah for a tenth of a second, then me. You know, that's really distracting, and it makes it look kind of Bush League, and I want it to look good. So you'll notice there aren't any shots like that, or if there are, there's not many, and if there are, it's accidental. You know, so there's only a very few ways to do that. And fortunately, in a game like this, there are good ways to do it. There's actually easier ways to do it. You can actually slow the film down, or you can slip the footage back and forth quite a lot. You know, you can make it so you can shift the film so the audio doesn't match up with the video, because the film is already pretty badly lip synced, so you can shift it by like a half second and nobody really notices because you know it's a cartoon, whatever. That I actually don't remember when I was playing that. I don't remember that being a bit, but they seriously fall and should die like over and over and over and over and over again in that fucking game. I had not noticed that until this time around. I don't. It's amazing. I cannot even process that. It's fucking incredible. This is awkward.
I know. A Nautilus Park Day.
It's even awkward in the game. Like, I don't... What? I can't even.